Kate laid curled up in Gideon's arms, their eyes lost in each other's warm embrace. They had just finished having a nice time, even though it's a forbidden one. Kate has been sleeping with her husband's boss, Gideon. But it's not what you think. She has a reason for that. Let's find out if it's worth it.
"Answer me, Kate," Anthony said, his voice low but sharp, cutting through the air like a knife. "What are you doing here? Why are you wearing a man's shirt?" Kate stood still, frozen like a statue. Her fingers loosened and the cup slipped from her hand, crashing to the floor. She didn't even flinch. Anthony stepped closer, eyes burning. "These aren't your clothes. Whose shirt is that?" Just then, the door behind her creaked open, and Mr. Gideon stepped out, dressed in a long robe. He paused when he saw Anthony. Anthony turned slowly to face him, disbelief written all over his face. "You," he whispered, voice trembling. "You're my boss. You knew about us. You've even seen her with me." Mr. Gideon tried to speak, but no words came. Kate finally whispered, "Anthony, I didn't mean for you to find out like this." He laughed, but it was hollow. Anthony was a man who believed in himself with all his heart. He had come from a small town where dreams were cheap but hard to chase. But through hard work, smart choices, and an unshakable faith in his own abilities, he carved a name for himself in the bustling city of Lagos, Nigeria. Now he worked in one of the best offices in the city, a glassy tall building that stood proud in the heart of Victoria Island. People knew his name in the company, and his dedication was admired even by his boss, Mr. Gideon, the powerful owner of the multi-million Niner company. Anthony was the kind of man who never came late to work, never missed a deadline, and never backed down from a challenge. While others rested, he pushed harder. His co-workers said he was a workaholic, but he didn't mind. For him, success was a ladder, and he had no time to sit on any rung too long. At home, Anthony had a different kind of challenge. His wife, Kate. She was stunning, the kind of beauty that turned heads everywhere she went. Her skin glowed, her nails were always freshly painted, and her hair never had a strand out of place. She didn't work, but she lived like a queen. Kate enjoyed the soft life. Spa days, hair appointments, new shoes, new dresses, shopping at fancy boutiques. That was her world. Sometimes Anthony would come home tired, hoping for a warm meal and a quiet evening, only to find Kate preparing for another outing with her friends, or scrolling endlessly on her phone. "Kate, you're spending too much," Anthony would say, frowning. "You have to think about the future. Life is not all about nails and new wigs." But she would wave him off, looking at him like he didn't understand anything. "You want me to be looking anyhow?" she would ask, flipping her freshly done braids over her shoulder. "These things matter, Anthony. I can't be looking unkept. I represent you." He would sigh and leave the conversation, but deep down, a small worry had begun to grow in his heart. A fear that she was slipping away from him, into a world he couldn't control. It was a lovely Thursday evening. The sky outside was calm, painted in soft orange and grey as the sun slowly disappeared behind the rooftops. Anthony had just returned from work, tired and worn out from a long day of meetings and back-to-back calls. As soon as he entered their modest but tastefully furnished apartment, he dropped his bag by the door and collapsed into the couch. The ceiling fan hummed quietly, and the soft scent of air freshener floated in the room. Their living room wasn't flashy, but it was neat and comfortable. A cream-coloured rug lay under the centre table, and a framed wedding photo of Anthony and Kate hung proudly on the wall. He closed his eyes for a moment, trying to relax his body. From the bathroom, the sound of running water stopped. A few minutes later, Kate stepped out, tying a towel around her body. Her face was glowing from the steam of her hot bath, and her nails sparkled, freshly painted in gold. "Ooh, you're back," she said, walking into the living room with a faint smile. Anthony nodded tiredly. "Yeah, I'm finished today." Kate returned to the kitchen area, opening the fridge and setting 2 packs of snacks and a chilled bottle of juice on the table. "Babe," she called out. "I couldn't make dinner today. I got home quite late from the salon. Let's just eat the snack and juice I ordered on my way back. Don't worry, tomorrow I'll cook jollof rice, your favourite." Anthony didn't argue. He wasn't surprised. It had happened many times before. Dinner being replaced by takeout or something quick. He simply stood and joined her at the dining table. They both sat in silence for a while, eating the puff-puffs and meat pie with gulps of cold orange juice. Later that night, in the bedroom, Anthony lay on the bed, scrolling through his emails. Kate sat by her dressing table, applying cream on her legs. "Oh," Anthony said suddenly, turning to her. "There's a dinner hangout tomorrow evening. My boss said we should celebrate the new deal we just sealed. Big money, big win." Kate looked at him through the mirror. "Okay? I want you to come with me," he said. "Dress nice. It's nothing too fancy, just dinner with the team." Kate turned around with a slight smile. Of course, why not? She didn't even ask questions, not where, not who would be there, not what time. She just said yes, like she already knew something he didn't. Anthony smiled and went back to his phone, unaware that this one evening would become the beginning of a secret unfolding. A secret that would shatter everything he believed was true. That night, Kate barely slept. While Anthony snored softly beside her, she lay awake, her eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Her heart beat faster than usual. She bit her lower lip, thinking. Something about the dinner made her nervous, but not in a way Anthony would notice. It wasn't about what to wear or how to behave, it was something else. She stood from the bed carefully, making sure not to wake him, and walked to her wardrobe. She pulled out a sleek black dress, one Anthony had never seen her wear before. Then she reached behind the wardrobe and took out a small clutch purse, the one she always kept hidden. She held it in her hand for a moment, then gently placed it on the dresser and returned to bed. The next day was already waiting. The dinner hangout was held in a sleek rooftop lounge overlooking the sparkling lights of Lagos Island. The place buzzed with laughter, light music, and the soft clinking of wine glasses. Waiters moved between groups, offering trays of cocktails and small chops, while office colleagues mingled with ease. Everyone was dressed to impress, and the air was filled with celebration and corporate pride. Anthony walked in confidently, his arm around Kate. She looked stunning in a fitted black dress and gold earrings that shimmered in the soft lights. Though Anthony had seen her dressed up many times, tonight she looked different, more elegant, more mysterious. He smiled proudly as he introduced her to his co-workers, and they both blended into the joyful crowd. Just then, Mr. Gideon walked past their table. Anthony, in high spirits and unaware of the storm brewing beneath the calm, waved politely. "Sir, good evening," he said warmly. "Please meet my wife, Kate." Mr. Gideon froze slightly as his eyes met Kate's. It was just for a second, but that second felt like the air had stopped moving. His expression didn't change much, but his eyes told a different story. A story of recognition, of shock, and perhaps even guilt. Kate also stiffened. She smiled quickly, pretending not to know him, nodding politely like it was their first meeting. Mr. Gideon gave a casual, "nice to meet you," and moved on, but Anthony didn't notice anything strange. He was too caught up in the celebration, shaking hands and raising his glass to another successful deal. Kate, however, couldn't sit still. Her fingers kept fidgeting with the ring on her hand, and her eyes darted around like someone being watched. "I'm coming. I need to use the girls' room," she said suddenly, standing up. Anthony, still naive and relaxed, pointed in the direction of the restrooms. "It's just by the corner there. Don't be long." "Okay," she replied quickly and walked away, her heels clicking on the tiled floor. What Anthony didn't see was Mr. Gideon slowly rising from his own corner of the room and following her, keeping a safe distance. When Kate stepped out of the restroom a few minutes later, she gasped slightly to see Mr. Gideon waiting just outside. "Follow me," he said quickly, and turned without giving her time to argue. She hesitated, glanced back toward the gathering, then followed him through a quiet hallway that led to a side exit of the building. From there they crossed the street into a small serviced apartment nearby, one of the company's safe houses used during high-level business visits. As soon as the door closed behind them, Kate folded her arms, trying to act calm. "You mean you own the company Anthony works for?" she asked, her voice low, filled with disbelief. Gideon nodded slowly. "Yes, Kate, I built it from scratch. Life surely has its way of spinning things." Kate exhaled hard, brushing her fingers through her hair. "Wow." "I've missed you," Gideon said, stepping closer. "I searched for you everywhere after you said you wanted to end things. I waited. You disappeared completely. You blocked me, changed your number, vanished." "I didn't block you," Kate replied quickly. "I was in an accident. Not too serious, but I lost my phone and everything in it. I couldn't reach out. Then life just moved on." Gideon's face softened. He stepped closer and took her hand gently. "I haven't been with any woman since you left. I haven't married. I waited for you, Kate. For years. I searched every one of your online accounts, but everything was gone. It was like you wanted to be forgotten." Her lips trembled, but she held her gaze. "I didn't want to be forgotten. I just didn't know how to come back. And when I married Anthony, I told myself it was time to start fresh." There was a long silence. The air between them was heavy, full of memories neither of them dared to mention. Then Gideon reached into his pocket and pulled out a small business card. He handed it to her. "Call me. Please. Even if it's just once. I need to talk to you again, without all this noise around us." Kate stared at the card, unsure of what to do or say. "I'll think about it," she whispered. "Don't think too long," he said softly. "Some chances don't come twice." Moments later, they returned to the dinner party, both wearing masks of composure like nothing had happened. Kate slipped into her seat beside Anthony, who welcomed her back with a smile and an arm around her shoulder. She smiled too, but it didn't reach her eyes. The music played on, glasses clinked, and laughter echoed across the rooftop. But something had changed. Kate felt it. Deep inside, she knew this night had pulled her into something she thought she had left behind. And Anthony, still joyful and unsuspecting. Kate stood by the window of their modest apartment, watching the street below. A woman selling fruits pushed her wheelbarrow slowly along the road, calling out to passers-by. But Kate's eyes weren't really on her. They were lost in thought. Her mind kept drifting back to that night at the dinner hangout. The moment she saw Gideon, something had shifted in her. She had left him years ago when things got hard, when he was still struggling to make something of himself. Back then, she thought she was being smart by choosing a more stable life with Anthony, someone decent, hard-working and responsible. But now Gideon had everything. Power, wealth, class. And the way he looked at her that night. It wasn't just about old feelings. It was about unfinished business. She had started small, a call here and there, usually to check on him or thank him for the party. Then she asked if he could help her with a small amount. $100,000 for a salon treatment and a few other things. Gideon didn't hesitate. In fact, he doubled it. The money came easy, and soon she found herself calling more often. He enjoyed her company, and she enjoyed the way he spoiled her. Then came the hotel meetings. She justified it at first, just a lunch. Then it became late lunches, then whole afternoons. Gideon took her to high-end hotels in Lekki, restaurants in Ikoyi, and private lounges where nobody would know her name. He bought her perfumes from Dubai, clothes from the UK, and transferred large sums into her account without her even asking. Kate felt alive again, the kind of life she had always dreamed of. Shopping became a weekly habit. Every Saturday she was at the mall, and on Sundays she was posting soft life pictures online. Her nails were never undone, her wigs were always new, and her bags came with designer names. Anthony didn't question her much at first. He had always known Kate liked to spend. But recently, even he started noticing the difference. The quality of her clothes, the way her phone changed, and how she always had cash. One morning, Anthony sat on the bed holding his work shoes. He glanced at her dressing table and saw a golden wristwatch he had never bought. "When did you get this?" he asked casually. "Oh, it's fake," Kate said, chuckling. "Just something I bought at Yubba Market. Looks real, right?" He nodded slowly, but his eyes lingered on it for a moment longer than usual. He didn't press her, though. His mind was preoccupied with other things. At the office, things were moving fast. Anthony had been putting in more hours than ever, pushing deadlines and handling tough clients. Still, he hadn't expected what came next. That Friday afternoon he was called into the conference room. Seated at the head of the table was Mr. Gideon himself, flanked by 2 HR managers and a few senior executives. "Anthony," Mr. Gideon said, smiling, "you've been doing impressive work lately. We've seen your dedication, and the management is happy to announce your promotion. You're now moving to Senior Business Strategist. Starting next month, your salary will double." Anthony's eyes widened. "Sir? Thank you, sir." He was overwhelmed. Just like that? A promotion this huge? He didn't even apply for it. He walked out of that meeting feeling like a king, a big boy in Lagos. His co-workers patted his back and shook his hand. His name was being whispered around the building with admiration. When he got home that night, he was practically glowing. "Kate," he called out as soon as he opened the door, "guess what?" She was painting her toenails in the living room. "What?" she asked, without much excitement. He walked over with the letter in hand. "I've been promoted. My salary just doubled. Babe, we're moving up." Kate looked at the letter, smiled faintly, then stood up and hugged him. "Wow, that's great news," she said, patting his back gently. "I'm happy for you." But inside, she already knew. The promotion wasn't based solely on Anthony's hard work. It was Gideon's hand behind the curtain. He was rewarding Anthony in front of the world while taking his wife in secret. The thought made her feel a mixture of power and guilt. Anthony kissed her cheek and sat down, already dreaming of how life would change. "I can finally take you on that trip to Ghana you've been talking about," he said. "We'll also get a new TV, and maybe start saving for a car." Kate nodded along, smiling, but her mind was elsewhere. Later that night, while Anthony was in the bathroom brushing his teeth, Kate picked up her phone and texted Gideon. "Kate, he got the promotion. He's so happy. You didn't have to do that." "Gideon, I did it for you. And because I want to see you smile. Have you thought about what I said the last time?" Kate stared at the message. She had tried not to think too deeply about it, but Gideon was making it harder to ignore. He had told her last week that he still wanted her, that she didn't have to continue pretending, that with one word from her he would build a life around her again. Her fingers hovered over the screen. "Kate, I'm thinking about it. Just give me time." Gideon didn't reply immediately, but when he did, the message was short. "Gideon, I'll wait." But not forever. Kate placed the phone down and turned off the lights. She slipped into bed beside Anthony, who was already asleep, snoring lightly from the day's exhaustion. She looked at him, the man who loved her, who worked so hard, who trusted her blindly. Then she looked up at the ceiling. Her heart was torn between the life she always dreamed of and the life she had built. But one thing was certain. Secrets don't stay buried forever, and the truth was beginning to knock louder than ever before. The secret meetings between Kate and Gideon continued like a flame that refused to die out. At first it was lunch dates and weekend visits, but soon the affair consumed them. They didn't just want each other for moments, they wanted entire days, long nights, uninterrupted time. And that was becoming difficult with Anthony always around, moving in and out of the house on his regular schedule. Gideon, smart and strategic as always, came up with an idea. One afternoon, while lying on the hotel bed with Kate resting on his chest, he spoke in a low tone. "I can send him on a trip. A long one. Somewhere far. That way we can have our time, you and I. No rushing." Kate looked up at him. "Are you serious?" "I own the company, Kate," he said, brushing her hair gently. "I can make anything happen." And he did. A week later, Anthony received a mail marked urgent from the HR department. It was an opportunity to represent the company in South Africa. A 3-week business development training with top partners, flights, accommodation and allowances all paid for. Anthony couldn't believe it. His mouth hung open for minutes as he read and reread the letter. His hands shook with excitement. This was more than a dream come true. It was the kind of chance people worked for years to get. He knelt beside his bed, tears in his eyes, and whispered a quiet prayer. "Thank you, God. I don't know how or why, but thank you." That Saturday, just before his trip, he took Kate out for dinner. A small restaurant by the beach. They ate grilled fish, drank Chapman, and laughed like newlyweds. Anthony held her hand across the table. "You've been patient with me," he said gently. "I know I haven't always given you the life you deserve, but thank you for sticking with me. I promise. Things are getting better." Kate smiled, playing her part. "You don't have to thank me, baby. I believe in you." He leaned in and kissed her forehead. "I'll miss you when I'm away." They hugged tightly before he left for the airport the next morning. Kate even cried a little at the departure gate, not because she was going to miss him, but because the timing was finally perfect. With Anthony out of the way, she had everything to herself. And so began what Kate later described to her friend as the best weeks of my life. She stayed at Gideon's private apartment in Banana Island, a place Anthony didn't even know existed. From morning to night she was treated like royalty. Chef-prepared meals, a driver at her service, spa sessions and scented bubble baths. She went on a cruise with Gideon across the Lagos Lagoon, snapping pictures on the deck in designer bikinis and wide sun hats. She uploaded photos of mocktails, sunsets and ocean views on her Instagram with captions like, "Soft life only," or "When you live right, life treats you right." Anthony, of course, saw every post. From his hotel room in Cape Town, he would smile at her pictures and type, "My love, I'm glad I'm making you happy. More wins ahead." On phone calls, Kate would laugh and say, "Baby, I'm just chilling at home, missing you, can't wait to have you back." Anthony never suspected a thing. He believed the lie completely, that his hard work was finally paying off, that Kate was finally content, that he was becoming the man she always wanted. Days passed into weeks, and everything seemed to be working perfectly. Until one day. It was a Monday morning. Anthony had returned to work a few days earlier, refreshed and motivated from the international exposure. His desk was filled with congratulatory notes, and his calendar was already booked with new meetings. He walked confidently through the glass doors of the office, greeting everyone as he passed. His co-workers praised his presentation at the South African conference. Some called him boss man now. Life seemed to be in full bloom. Back at his desk, he began clearing his emails. One of the messages caught his eye. It was from the digital media consultant the company had recently hired. The subject read, "Social Media Content Review Management Staff Mentions." He clicked on it absent-mindedly, not expecting anything serious. But as he scrolled through the document attached, his eyes froze on a particular slide. There, bold and clear, was a screenshot of an Instagram story. Kate's story. In the background was a luxury hotel room, the kind with marble floors and floor-length curtains. She was filming her hand showing off a diamond-studded bracelet. The caption read, "Weekend vibes with my piece." But that wasn't what shocked Anthony. It was the voice in the background, a man's voice. Faint, but unmistakable. And it wasn't his voice. Anthony stared at the screen for a long time, his hands suddenly cold, his heart beating slower. He replayed the video in his mind, every second unraveling something he didn't want to believe. He tried to shake it off, convincing himself that it was probably a friend or some random sound. But the bracelet, the room, the luxury. He hadn't bought that bracelet. He didn't know that room. He had never been there. That evening, as he drove home, something in him had changed. He didn't say anything to Kate when he entered. She smiled, hugged him as usual, and brought out his dinner. But his smile didn't reach his eyes. He sat at the table and watched her carefully. Every movement, every word, every blink. And in his chest, a quiet storm began to rise. Something wasn't right. Something was terribly wrong. The days following Anthony's return from South Africa had been filled with silent questions. He hadn't yet confronted Kate about the Instagram post or the strange voice in the background, but the seed of doubt had been planted. It grew quietly in his heart, feeding on every little detail. A new necklace she hadn't mentioned buying, perfume he didn't recognize, the way her phone never left her side anymore. Still, Anthony tried to stay focused. He buried himself in work, convincing himself that his mind was playing tricks on him. Maybe he was being paranoid, maybe he was just tired. But deep down, a small voice kept whispering, "Something is not right." Then came the project. It was an urgent file that needed Mr. Gideon's signature before the end of the day. Anthony had been overseeing the project for 2 weeks, and now it was time to submit it to the international partners. Everything was ready, except the final signature. He checked the time. 11:07. "I am. Is Mr. Gideon in yet?" he asked one of the junior staff. "No, sir," the young man replied. "I haven't seen him since Friday." Anthony raised an eyebrow. That was unusual. Mr. Gideon never missed work without notice. He picked up his office phone and dialed Gideon's PA. A response. He tried again and again. Still nothing. He walked over to one of the HR desk. "Have you heard from Mr. Gideon?" "No, sir. I've been trying to reach him all morning too. His line isn't going through." The office murmurs began to grow. Some assumed he was taking a secret break. Others joked that he was probably out on a boat somewhere, living his soft life. But Anthony knew his boss. Mr. Gideon was many things, classy, powerful, even secretive. But irresponsible wasn't one of them. Anthony returned to his desk, staring at the unsigned document. Then one of the senior colleagues spoke. "Anthony, you're close to the boss. Why not just drive to his house and check? It's not far from here, just to be sure everything's fine." The idea made sense. Without wasting time, Anthony printed the document, slid it into a brown file, grabbed his car keys, and headed out. The drive to Mr. Gideon's residence in Ikoyi took just under 20 minutes. The gates were tall and black with gold trimming. A security man stood outside, looking confused when he saw Anthony's car pull in. "Good morning, sir," the man greeted, hesitating. "Good morning," Anthony replied calmly. "Is Mr. Gideon in?" He's inside, sir, but I just need a few minutes with him. It's important." Before the guard could say more, Anthony had already stepped out of the car, file in hand, and made his way toward the front door. He rang the bell. No response. He rang again. Then, slowly, the door opened. And standing there, barefoot, was Kate. Anthony froze. Time slowed. She was wearing a long white shirt that reached her thighs. It wasn't hers. Anthony knew every single item in her wardrobe. This shirt, this men's shirt, didn't belong to her. Her hair was rough, tied up loosely. She had no earrings on. Her face was bare, her lips trembled as her eyes locked with Anthony's. For a full 5 seconds, neither of them spoke. Anthony's mouth opened, but no words came out. He stared at her, at the house behind her, at the shirt, at the way she held the door as if she was about to run. Then came footsteps, slow, relaxed footsteps. And Mr. Gideon appeared, dressed in a grey robe. He paused behind Kate, confused at first. Then his eyes landed on Anthony. Everything fell quiet. Anthony felt the world spin. His chest rose and fell slowly. His hands tightened around the brown file until the edges began to bend. Kate stepped back slightly, but it was too late. Anthony had seen enough. "What?" His voice broke. "Kate, what are you doing here?" He looked at Mr. Gideon now. "Sir?" There was no reply. Kate couldn't speak. Her lips quivered. Her hands shook. She looked like a child caught stealing. Anthony's voice grew firmer. "Kate, answer me. Why are you here, in his house, wearing that shirt?" The file dropped from Anthony's hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. Everything inside him shattered. Mr. Gideon tried to step forward. "Anthony, listen." Don't talk," Anthony snapped. His voice was heavy now, hurt, shaken, betrayed. Kate's knees buckled slightly as she leaned on the doorframe. "I can explain," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. Anthony took a step back. He felt the air tighten around him. The betrayal was thicker than anything he had ever known. He had trusted them both, worked under Gideon, loved Kate, sacrificed sleep, money, peace. And this? His heart thudded loudly in his ears. But he didn't scream. He didn't break anything. He just stood there, broken. And as the morning sun poured across the quiet street behind him, Anthony's world crashed. Not with thunder, but with silence. And that silence said everything.